How's it going, everybody? Daner here with North Central Coins, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the most rare and valuable coins in Australia. Today we're going to be taking a look at 8 common coins from the land down under that you have a good chance of finding by searching through your pocket change or collections, and if identified correctly, can make you some serious money. Every single one of the coins that we discussed today, although rare, is not impossible to find, and in this video we will explore each of these valuable pieces of currency and delve into why they hold such incredible value in Australian numismatics. Additionally, we will discuss any distinguishing and identifying features, their significance among collectors, and also the potential value if you're ever to find a legitimate example. Before I do get into this, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you can follow along with my new content. And make sure to stay to the end of the video if you would like to find out which is the most valuable of these coins that you can find. And then without any further ado, what do you say we get right into it and take a look at 8 common Australian coins that you can find worth big money. Let's get it, guys. Since the introduction of Australia's decimal currency system on February 14, 1966, the 20-cent coin has played a significant role replacing the previous florin denomination, which was valued at 2 shillings or a tenth of a pound. Over the years, the coin has undergone several changes, particularly in its obverse face designs. The coin initially featured a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by Arnold Mochan from 1966 to 1984. Subsequent designs have included renditions by Raphael Mockloff from 1985 to 1998 and Ian Rank Broadley from 1999 to 2019. The final portrait of Queen Elizabeth II that was used in Australia was done by Jody Clark since the year 2019. The obverse typically bears the inscription Australia and the year of issue on the right, with Elizabeth II on the left, but that will now change with King Charles being the king. The reverse side of Australian 20-cent coins depict a platypus, which was designed by artist Stuart Devland. This became the standard design for the reverse side of Australian 20-cent coins. Aside from occasional commemorative issues, the platypus motif has remained a constant feature, symbolizing Australia's unique wildlife heritage. Notably, the United Nations 20-cent coin, which was minted in 1995, marked the first commemorative release of its kind for circulation. While commemorative designs had been issued previously for other denominations, this marked a significant milestone for the Australian 20-cent coin. In terms of legal tender status, 20-cent coins hold value for transactions up to $5, making them a widely accepted and used form of currency for everyday purchases and payments. This ensures their practicality in daily financial transactions across the country. Beyond just their nominal value, these coins carry historical and cultural significance, representing Australia's transition to decimal currency and celebrating its natural heritage through numismatic artistry. The 1981 20-cent coin struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette, specifically the 3.5 claw variety, is a highly unusual and sought-after mint heir in the realm of Australian numismatics. This unique error occurred when the Australian 20-cent coin dies were mistakenly fed with the planchettes intended for the Hong Kong $2 coins during the minting process. The resulting coins exhibit distinct characteristics that differentiate them from standard Australian currency, making them prized collectibles among enthusiasts. Now, one of the key features you want to identify on this heir is the presence of both the scalloped planchette that is found on the Hong Kong $2 planchette and also the scalloped letters that are one of the varieties you can find for the Australian 1981 20-cent coin. You can find the presence of the scalloped or straight letters in the inscription of Elizabeth on the obverse of the coin. The scalloped letter variety is notably rarer than the straight letter variety. Now, to identify the scalloped lettering on the 1981 20-cent coin, you want to look at the inscription of Elizabeth, and you basically want to take a look at all of the points on the letters, and you want them to be a lot more rounded. The edges of the lettering in the straight variety will be a lot more pointed, Well, the lettering in the scalloped variety will be a lot more blunt. That is basically the easiest way that I can put it to you. Now, there is actually another variety you can identify for this coin that can add a premium, even if it is not the mule coin. And to identify this, what you want to do is take a look at the claws on the platypus, which is depicted on the reverse side of the coin. Now, you are looking for the 3.5 claw variety, which is characterized by the presence of 3 full claws, with the 4th claw appearing partially cut off, particularly under the digit 2. In contrast, the less rare variety features 4 fully pronounced claws, which are clearly visible without any signs of deterioration or wear. Now, if you can identify the scalloped letters and the 3.5 claw variety, you already have yourself a fairly rare 20-cent coin. This is one of the more rare varieties that you can look for, but there is actually an extremely rare Holy Grail variety for this coin that was struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette by mistake. The distinctiveness of this 1981 20-cent coin struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette, particularly the 3.5 claw variety, contributes to its desirability among collectors. Air coins such as these often command premium prices in the numismatic market due to their scarcity and novelty. The unique combination of minting errors, including the use of the wrong planchette, and these distinct die variations make these coins prized additions to any collector from the land down under. Beyond their collectible value, these air coins offer insights into the intricacies of the minting process and the potential for human and mechanical errors in coin production. They serve as tangible reminders of the challenges faced by mints and ensuring the accuracy and quality of coinage. The study and appreciation of mint errors like this 1981 20 scalloped letters struck on a Hong Kong $2 planchette with 3.5 claws provide a fascinating glimpse into the world of numismatics. Some of the details and specifications for the Australian 1981 20-cent coin, if any of these are off, it might indicate that it is a mule variety or possibly a counterfeit. But the mule will be slightly more yellowish in color and will also have these scalloped edges. But chances are, if you were to find a counterfeit of a 1981 20-cent coin, it would probably be for the mule. I've seen plenty of counterfeits on online auction sites like AliExpress, eBay, and Temu, and I would not doubt that this is a coin that could make an appearance on there, and you could probably buy a counterfeit for a couple of dollars. So you definitely want to do your due diligence and make sure that all of the specifications are bang on. Now, in terms of the legitimate 1981 20-cent Australian coin, it is supposed to be composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It is intended to have a weight of 11.31 grams and a diameter of 28.52 millimeters. It was designed and engraved by Arnold Mockin for the obverse and Stuart Devlin for the reverse, and the edge of the coin is milled. Now, what do you say we get into the values for these 1981 errors and varieties? Now, the most valuable of the different regular varieties that you can look for is the 1981 with 3.5 claws and scalloped letters. If you can find one of these, it can definitely have a premium on the low end. It can probably be worth anywhere from $5 to $25, depending on how worn and beat up it is and how badly somebody wants the coin. Now, as it starts to get into the MS range, the 1981 3.5 claws with scalloped letters can be worth around $150 for an MS66 and around $300 for an MS67. So considering that is just a die variety, that isn't too bad for a fairly modern Australian coin. Unfortunately, there aren't too many Australian coins produced in the last 40 or 50 years that are worth a whole lot of money, and this is definitely one of the most valuable ones that you can find. Now, if you can identify the 3.5 claws and the scalloped letters, and it also has that scalloped $2 Hong Kong planchette, then you have yourself an incredibly rare coin. Now, I unfortunately was not able to find any listed values for this coin, but it is actually listed on PCGS's website and it has been attributed. So if you do find one, you can send it in to be graded, but they did not list any auction records. But if I had to guess for this coin, if you found one and it scored in the low end, you could easily get probably around $500 to $1,000. This is an extremely rare error coin, and finding planchette errors like this just does not happen too often. So it's definitely good to know which dates to look for that these planchette errors might occur on, so you have an idea. Now, if you find one of these on the high end, if it scores anywhere from an MS66 to MS70, which is not impossible for Australian coins, sometimes they will nab that higher grading tier, then I don't doubt that you could easily get around $10,000 for this coin, especially if it scores in the MS67 range or higher. This is a holy grail and one of the rarest and most valuable Australian coins that you could find from the last 30 or 40 years. And this is one that I could definitely see getting mixed in with a big bag of world coins. I've gotten plenty of coins from all over the world before: Japanese coins, Chinese, German, Czech, Swedish coins, and sometimes you will see some really crazy planchettes. Like with Chinese coins, they will have holes in the center, and I have encountered scalloped coins in the past. I'm pretty sure some of the Jamaican pieces actually have scalloped edges as well. So if you do happen to find one of these 1981 Australian 20-cent coins and it has the scalloped edges, you might just want to get a second opinion, because who knows if you have a coin that is worth more than $10,000. Australian 1-cent coins have been part of the nation's currency and economy when they were first produced by the Royal Australian Mint and its branches, as well as the Royal Mint in London. However, these coins didn't enter circulation until February of 1966. They were introduced as part of Australia's shift to decimal currency, replacing the earlier pre-decimal halfpenny. The decision to cease the issue of 1-cent coins was announced on August 21st, 1990. This decision was primarily driven by two key factors. The first factor being inflation, which had eroded the real purchasing power of these coins over the years. The nominal value of the Australian 1-cent coin had significantly diminished, making them impractical for everyday transactions. Secondly, the cost of minting these coins became increasingly disproportionate to their face value. So at the end of the day, it became economically unsustainable to continue producing Australian 1-cent coins. Despite ceasing their production, Australian 1-cent coins still retain their status as legal tender. This means they can still be used to purchase goods and services or deposited at financial institutions. Even though they were gradually withdrawn from circulation starting in February 1992, individuals and businesses are not obligated to refuse them as payment if offered. The feathertail glider, often known as the flying mouse or flying squirrel, is a remarkable marsupial species native to eastern Australia. Now, what sets this tiny glider apart is its incredible ability to glide through the air, making it the world's smallest gliding mammal. One of the most distinctive features of the feathertail glider is its long feather-shaped tail, from which it derives its name. This unique adaptation allows it to make controlled gliding descents from tree to tree, covering distances of up to 25 meters or 82 feet or more in a single bound. The feathertail glider's gliding prowess is an essential survival strategy for navigating its forested habitat and avoiding ground-based predators. In addition to its gliding abilities, the feathertail glider is also known for its minuscule size, with adults typically weighing around 10 grams or less. They are primarily nocturnal creatures, emerging at night to forage for nectar, pollen, insects, and small fruits. These tiny marsupials are not only captivating but an integral part of Australia's unique ecosystem. Their survival depends on the conservation of their forest habitats, which are increasingly threatened by deforestation and habitat loss. Now that you have an understanding of the animal on the reverse of the Australian 1-cent coin, what do you say we discuss the coin that you guys are all here to find out about, and that is the blunt second whisker 1966 penny. Now, this piece was minted at 3 different mints in Australia, and where it was minted can affect the value greatly. 1966 pennies minted in Melbourne and Perth are the most rare and will also have the blunt whisker varieties that you are looking for, while the penny minted in Canberra has the pointed whiskers and is not worth much above face value. Now, there are 2 different degrees or varieties of the blunt whiskers, which are specific to the location or mint that they originated. The most valuable of the Australian 1966 penny varieties, and the one that you want to try and identify, is the blunt second whisker, which was minted in Perth, and this one has the highest value, but actually the blunt first whisker is actually pretty valuable as well. That one was minted in Melbourne. Now, the blunt first whisker variety on the 1966 Australian Melbourne penny refers to a specific characteristic on the design of the reverse of the coin. On this side, the first whisker and second whiskers depicted on the flying mouse appear to have a blunt or rounded tip instead of the more common pointed tips. This variation is very subtle, but is a distinct and collectible variety among numismatists. The 1966 Australian penny was minted at the Royal Australian Mints in Canberra, Melbourne, and Perth, marking the first year of decimal coinage in Australia. Decimalisation saw the transition from pounds, shillings, and pence to the dollar coin and cents system. The penny was one of the denominations introduced during this transition. Collectors value this variety for its uniqueness and the challenge of finding it among regular 1966 pennies. The scarcity of the blunt first whisker variety contributes to its desirability, and collectors often seek to add it to their collections. Now, the value of these Australian 1966 pennies can vary depending on several factors such as its condition, rarity within the market, and most importantly, demand from collectors. Generally, coins in excellent condition with clear details tend to command higher prices. And with this one, where the coin was minted plays a significant role in its value. The most valuable of the three varieties is the one minted at the Perth Mint, which has the blunt second whisker variety. The second most valuable is the blunt first whisker, which was minted at Melbourne. And the least valuable of the 1966 penny varieties is the pointed whiskers, which was minted in Canberra. Some of the details and specifications for the 1966 Australian penny: it is composed of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. It has a weight of 2.59 grams, a diameter of 17.5 millimeters. It was designed and engraved by Raphael Mocklaw for the obverse and Stuart Devlin for the reverse. The edge of the coin is plain, and it is in metal alignment, as is the standard for Canadian, Australian, and British coins. Now, it can be pretty darn tricky to differentiate between these pointed and blunt whisker varieties. I myself even had some difficulty differentiating between the two, so I will definitely put some examples up on the screen. First, we will start with the 1966 blunt first whisker, which was minted at the Melbourne Mint. In terms of value, these aren't super valuable on the low end. It all depends if you can find someone that's willing to pay a premium and wants it for their collection, but you can definitely get a couple dollars for these coins if you can find someone that really wants them for their collection. Now, the blunt first whisker was minted at the Melbourne Mint. Now, in terms of value, it can be worth around $20.90 for an MS62, $32 for an MS64, and all the way up to $37.80 for an MS65, and that is for the blunt first whisker, which was minted in Melbourne. Now, for the rarest of the blunt whisker varieties, the 1966 blunt second whisker, which was minted in Perth, it is actually worth around $17 for an MS62, so a little bit less on the low end, but as you start to go up, you see some price jumps. It's worth around $30 for an MS63, around $45 for an MS64, and around $50 for an MS65 example, and these prices are in Australian as well, so you will be able to get a little bit more in American or Canadian dollars. Now, the least valuable of the three is the 1966 pointed whiskers, which was minted in Canberra. Just to give you an idea, it's only worth about $5 in an MS62, and it can be worth up to $25 for an MS65 example. So the least rare, valuable, and desirable of the three 1966 whisker varieties. Another important thing to keep in mind when I'm giving you these price listings is that it is much more common for Australian and British and American coins to score from an MS67 to MS70. Unfortunately, coins in Canada do not score above MS67 very often. If they do, sometimes we'll get lucky and score an MS68, but usually only for newer modern numismatic pieces do you actually have a likelihood of hitting that 69 or 70 mark, but it is much more likely for Australian and British coins, especially if they are post-decimal era. So these 1966 pennies, even though they are pushing the 50-year mark, they are still relatively modern in the world of coin collecting, so definitely a good one to have on your radar. So before we do get into the value for the Australian 50-cent Millennium Incuse flag variety, I just want to go over some of the history of the Australian 50-cent coin. The third highest denomination coin of the Australian dollar and the largest in terms of size currently in circulation is the 12-sided 50-cent coin. It is actually identical to the Cook Islands $5 coin in terms of size and shape, and both pieces continue to be the only 12-sided coins in the Southern Hemisphere. The Australian 50-cent coin was first released in 1969 to take the place of the 1966 issued round 50-cent coin. The first 50-cent coins were round and made of 80% silver and 20% copper. However, as the value of a free-floating silver price increased, the bullion value of the coin increased to the point where it was worth more than the face value of the coin. As a result, that version was taken out of circulation and replaced with the dodecagonal cupro-nickel version of the coin. The Australian 50-cent coin is actually the third largest coin currently in circulation in the world. The only two coins that are larger are the Costa Rican 500 cologne and the 50 franc coin. With the exception of the years 1967 and 1968, which neither have mint or proof sets nor circulation strikes issued, the year-dated 50-cent coins for 1986, 1987, 89, 90, and 92 are exclusively available on only mint and proof sets. Australian 50-cent coins are only considered legal tender for a payment of a debt that does not exceed $5, but they are commonly accepted and used as legal money in everyday transactions. Like on all Australian coins, the current monarch is depicted on the obverse. So currently Elizabeth II is featured on Australian coins, but there should very likely soon be a switch to King Charles. Most common Australian 50-cent circulating coins will have the Australian coat of arms as the design on the reverse, but there have been commemorative issues throughout the years. One of the most notable and also valuable of the commemorative 50-cent Australian coins is a millennium piece from the year 2000. In the fascinating world of coin collecting, remarkable discoveries often unfold and enthusiasts find themselves on a treasure hunt like no other. A gentleman by the name of Drew Jackson, who was a dedicated coin collector with a keen eye for finding error and varieties, embarked on such a journey in the year 2006, and his find would become the stuff of numismatic legends. It was the year 2000, and the world was in the midst of celebrating the turn of the new millennium. It was a time of reflection, anticipation, and for coin collectors, a time of heightened interest in commemorative coins. Among these coins was the Australian 50-cent commemorative millennium coin, a symbol of hope and new beginnings. What makes Drew Jackson's discovery truly exceptional is the nature of the variation that he unearthed. The raised and incused flag variations on the coin's reverse side. Now these aren't just any variations, they're like hidden gems within the realm of coinage. The Royal Australian Mint, who is responsible for producing these remarkable pieces of currency, estimated that there are only approximately 200,000 of these unique variety coins that were struck with a single die intended for circulation. But what exactly sets these coins apart and makes them a collector's dream? Well, on the reverse side of the 2050-cent commemorative millennium coin, one can spot the Australian flag proudly displayed. But what makes this variety special is that the flag is depicted in two contrasting ways, one in which it is raised and another where it is incused. It's as if the coin itself is embodying the duality of history and reflecting Australia's rich heritage and its journey into the new millennium. One of the easiest ways to actually differentiate between them is to run your fingers over the surface of the coins. On one version, you will feel the flag's image raised above the coin's surface as if it's waving proudly in the breeze. Yet on the other version, that same flag is actually incused into the coin's surface, creating a unique contrast between the two. When Drew Jackson initially made his discovery, it sent ripples through the coin collecting community. Collectors worldwide were captivated by the prospect of owning one of these. Each coin became not just a piece of currency, but a tangible connection to a momentous period in history. Drew Jackson's find served as a testament to the excitement and wonder that coin collectors experience in their pursuit, and his discovery elevated the status of the 2050-cent commemorative millennium coin, transforming it into a highly sought-after treasure. So the next time you come across a coin, whether in your pocket change or within the vast world of numismatic treasures, take a moment to appreciate the stories that it carries and the collectors like Drew Jackson who continue to unveil the hidden gems within the realm of coinage. Now, before we get into the potential value for this coin, I'm going to give you some of the specifications. If any of these are off, it might indicate that it is a counterfeit. You have to be very wary of counterfeits these days. There are several sites that sell counterfeit coins, whether it be Canadian, American, Australian, and usually when it comes to heirs or varieties like this, there will be an abundance of counterfeit coins. So you want to do your due diligence and definitely check some of the specifications. So the denomination is 50 cents. The year of issue is from the year 2000. The composition of the coin is cupro-nickel, which is 75% copper, 25% nickel. The coin has a diameter of 31.51 millimeters, a weight of 15.55 grams, and the edge is smooth, as is the standard for most Australian coins, and the die axis is in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Australian, Canadian, and British coins as well. Now, in terms of value, the Coins in Australia website does not actually give you values on the low end. The lowest grade example that they actually give you values for is an MS60. But one important thing to note is that Australian, British, American, and sometimes coins from foreign countries will score much higher in the MS scale than Canadian coins. The Sheldon scale is a 70-point system, so it is very rare for Canadian coins to score above MS67. It's not that it never happens, but if it does happen, then it is usually a modern coin, and if it is an older coin, then it'll be worth some buku money. But Australian, British, and American coins have a much better chance of scoring between an MS67 and an MS70, and if it does score in that high tier of grading, it can definitely add some value to the coin. Now, in terms of value, the first price estimate that they give on coins in Australia is $762 for an MS62 example. Now, on the low end, this coin definitely has a premium. I would say it's probably worth around $20 to $30 if it is beat up, worn, and been through the meat grinder. People will still want this thing for their collection, so it's definitely a good one to look for. But on the high end, it can be worth $2,160 for an MS64 example, which, as we know right now, is currently the highest graded known example. If you were to find one and it scored an MS65, it would probably be worth around $3,000. And as it goes up in the grading tiers, you're going to see some massive price jumps. We could be talking a $10,000 coin if it scored MS67 or higher. During the reigns of King George VI and Queen Elizabeth II, the reverse side boasted the image of a kangaroo, a motif later incorporated into other Australian coins, also including the dollar and the silver bullion kangaroos. The George VI era introduced some mint-specific variations. Pennies minted in Perth exhibited a dot in strategic positions like the end of penny or after Australia, or between the K and G above the kangaroo's tail. Melbourne minted coins lacked this distinctive dot. An eye beneath King George VI bust indicated minting in India, exclusively found on pennies and half pennies dated between 1942 and 1943. Following the introduction of the Australian dollar in the year 1966, the penny became equivalent to 0.8333 cents, marking the end of its era as a functional unit of currency, but cementing its enduring legacy in the numismatic landscape. The 1959 Australian penny stands out as a particularly valuable coin within its date range, with its worth ranging from approximately $1 on the lower end of the grading scale to an impressive 600 Australian dollars for specimens graded at MS67. The reason that this coin is so noteworthy is that in the realm of pre-decimal Queen Elizabeth II pennies, it commands a premium even at the lower end of the grading spectrum. The potential for an increase in value over time also adds an intriguing dimension to the allure of the 1959 Australian penny. This distinctive feature sets it apart from its counterparts, making it an addition to numismatic collections. The rarity and premium on the low end contribute to the coin's desirability among collectors, further solidifying its status as a valuable and potentially appreciating asset in the world of Australian coin collecting. Now, some of the details and specifications for the 1959 Australian penny, if any of these are off, then it may indicate that the coin is not authentic. So the 1959 Australian penny comes in two distinct variations. There is the regular or plain 1959 penny, and then there is the 1959 Y dot. To identify the Y dot, what you want to do is look for a dot which will be visible after the lettering of penny. Now, believe it or not, it is actually the plain 1959 Australian penny that you are looking for. The 1959 regular Australian penny has a mintage figure of 1,617,000, while the 1959 Y dot has a mintage figure of 14,428,000. Now, these coins were minted at the Melbourne Mint. They have a composition of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. They have a weight of 9.45 grams, a diameter of 30.8 millimeters, and the coins were designed and engraved by Mary Gillick for the obverse and George Kruger Gray for the reverse. In terms of this coin's value, it isn't going to make you rich on the low end, but it does have a premium considering its face value is only 1 cent. It is worth around $1 for a G4, it can be worth around $5 for a VF20, and all the way up to $20 for an AU50 example. Now, as we start to get into the mint state region, we see some price jumps. It is worth around $60 for an MS60, around $200 for an MS64, and it can be worth all the way up to 600 Australian dollars for an MS67 example. This one is a lot more rare than most of the other pennies within this date range, and it also has a higher low end value. Most of the other pennies will be worth max 50 cents, but for this one you can get around $1 for it. I can't tell you exactly why, but it does have a relatively low mintage figure of around $1.5 million. In the 1980s, Australian gold-colored $1 and $2 coins were officially launched. The dollar coins were first launched in 1984 to replace the $1 bill. In 1988, the $2 coins were launched, likewise replacing the $2 banknote. The composition of these coins is 92% copper, 2% nickel, and 6% aluminum. The $2 coin is significantly thicker but has a smaller diameter than the $1 coin. The introduction of these Australian gold-colored $1 and $2 coins in the 1980s aimed to phase out the use of paper currency for these denominations. These newer modern coins, which were composed of a copper-nickel-aluminum alloy, not only provided a more durable alternative but also allowed for easier identification due to their distinctive size and thickness. Now, before we get into this extremely rare and valuable Australian dollar, first we should discuss mule coins briefly. A mule coin is not some exotic currency from a distant land, but rather a coin with a quirky minting error that makes it incredibly special. Imagine holding a coin that appears like a certain denomination is on one side, but you flip it over and it's a completely different story on the other. It's like having a coin that is playing a double role. Mule coins are the result of a mix-up in the minting process where mismatched dies were used to strike the coin. The term mule refers to the fact that these coins are hybrids, combining elements from two different coin designs, similar to a mule or donkey. It's as if the minting process took an unexpected turn, creating an incredible numismatic oddity. One of the most famous examples of mule coins comes from Australia, and it is actually the coin that we are discussing today, and that is the $2,000 mule with a 10-cent obverse die. So if you ever do stumble upon a mule coin, consider yourself extremely lucky. These coins are not only rare, but also carry with them the charm of unexpected surprises in the world of coin collecting. These pieces are a reminder that even in the realm of precision and consistency, sometimes coins like to break the rules and become numismatic treasures. Australian coin collectors first learned about a significant coin blunder that occurred at the Royal Australian Mint in 2003. A few $1 coins from the year 2000 were struck with the wrong obverse die, head side, and sent into circulation, but the mistake wasn't discovered for a year or two. Some of the 2000 $1 coin obverses were accidentally struck using the Australian 10-cent obverse die. The 10-cent and $1 coins only differ in diameter by 1.4 millimeters, therefore the mistake went undetected and the fabled 2000 $1 mule was released into the wild. This incredibly rare and valuable coin quickly gained attention from collectors and numismatists the world over. Due to its unique combination of the 10-cent and $1 designs, the 2000 $1 mule became highly sought after, with some specimens selling for thousands if not more. The Royal Australian Mint eventually acknowledged this error and confirmed the existence of these rare coins, further increasing their desirability among collectors. When compared to a regular $1 coin, it's not difficult to identify a 2000 $1 or 10-cent mule. Due to the smaller 10-cent die, the coin's obverse has a smaller double rim, which is visible in the coin's image above. Because the smaller die was utilized, the double rim and obverse striking are frequently out of alignment. Obverse strikes that are well centered on mules typically sell for more money. This alignment issue also adds to the uniqueness and rarity of the 2000 $1 and 10-cent mule coin, making them even more sought after by collectors. Additionally, the distinct double rim on the obverse side of the coin further distinguishes it from regular $1 coins, making it a highly desirable piece for any collection. Now, there is some speculation on mintage figures for the 2000 $1 10-cent mule coin. On the now inactive Australian Coins internet community, some of the more active mule hunters did disclose their find numbers. The mintage figure was determined from these numbers and an enormous sample size that was searched. Some hunters examined upwards of 2 million coins and said that the 2001 mule had a mintage of between 6,000 and 7,000 pieces. This limited mintage adds to the allure of the 2001 mule as collectors value coins with lower production numbers. Additionally, the rarity of this coin contributes to its high market value. Now, the easiest way to identify this coin is to flip over to the obverse. The reverse of the coin should have the typical Australian dollar design featuring 5 kangaroos, but the obverse of the coin should have the date 2000, the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, and most importantly, a somewhat noticeable seam or bevel in between the rim of the coin and the strike on the obverse. This is because the 10-cent obverse die was slightly smaller in diameter, thus creating a smaller impression on the coin around the size of an Australian 10-cent piece. Now, before we get into the value, I quickly want to give you guys some of the specifications for this coin. If any of these are off, it might indicate that it is a counterfeit or a fake. This coin was issued for standard circulation. It is from the year 2000. It has a face value of $1 Australian. Now, $1 Australian as of today is equal to 87 cents Canadian. It is of the decimal era, which means from 1966 until the present day. It is composed of aluminum bronze, which is 92% copper, 6% aluminum, and 2% nickel. It has a weight of 9 grams, a diameter of 25 millimeters, a thickness of 2.5 millimeters. The shape is round, and the coin's orientation is in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Australian and Canadian coins. In terms of value, finding price listings for this coin can be challenging, but PCGS actually lists a record of an eBay sale that sold a graded MS62 example for $3,598. Something important to note is that it is much more common for British, Australian, and American coins to score from MS67 to MS70 if they are in a high-grade mint state, unlike Canadian coins, which rarely surpass the MS67 mark. Because of these extra tiers in grades, if it does receive an MS68, MS69, or the MS70 grade, you can be sure it will bring some massive premiums. And with some of the information I've come across, a few that were graded higher than MS62 have sold in the past over the 5-figure mark. In the year 1966, around 36 million 50-cent coins were produced at the Canberra Mint exclusively. The production of this round highest denomination coin stopped when silver price on the market got up around 80% in a few months. We know that the mint melted down a large amount of them early in 1966 and recalled a lot of them each year for melting and profit purposes. Now, one question people ask is how many still exist. An estimate of 50 to 60% of the 1966 Australian silver half dollars are estimated to have survived. Many people kept a lot of them out of circulation since 1966, making it less rare than it should be. At this moment in time, PCGS certified a total of 1,273 circulating examples of them, and NGC a total of 35. The highest grade known currently is MS67, with only 3 of them having that attribution, all of them being graded by PCGS. Only 9 50-cent 1966 proof coins have been certified. A number of proofs and patterns, including the double bar pattern and the no field design pattern, are known to be struck at the Royal Mint in London. The obverse of this coin shows the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II with Australia and the date 1966. The reverse, designed by Stuart Devlin, features a design of a kangaroo and an emu near the coat of arms, reminiscent of the pre-decimal 1911 to 1936 silver 3-pence, 6-pence, shilling, and florin coins. Some of the details and specifications of this coin: it was struck in the year 1966, it has a face value of 50 cents, its shape is round, it has a weight of 13.28 grams, a diameter of 31.5 millimeters, a thickness of 2 millimeters. Its designers were Arnold Machin for the obverse and Stuart Devlin for the reverse. It is composed of 80% silver and 20% copper and has milled edges. No 50-cent coin was produced in 1967 and 1968, and starting in 1969, the composition of the coin changed from 80% silver and 20% copper to 75% copper and 25% nickel, making it one of the last silver circulating coins in the history of Australia, and the shape became dodecagonal to differentiate it between the 20-cent coin. In the year 2006, 40 years after the introduction of decimal currency, and 2010, a commemorative round silver 80% 20% copper proof on circulating 50-cent coin was made. An extremely limited pure gold proof set was also issued. So if you're ever shopping for foreign silver coins online, or if you're actually from Australia, I guess this would be considered something like a scrap silver coin, you could really get lucky if you find one of these 1966 50-cent coins and they actually are in decent condition. There are not too many that have been attributed to the MS scale. They are quite rare and definitely one of the holy grails of the more modern Australian coin era. Australia, Canada, and Britain all share a symbiotic relationship when it comes to their coins and currency, but February 14, 1966 marked a monumental turning point for Australia. On this fateful day, the nation bid farewell to its age-old currency system, which was rooted in the British pound, shilling, and pence, and embarked on a bold expedition towards the modern decimal currency system that it now proudly flaunts. This transformation was no mere alteration, it was a seismic shift that encompassed various pivotal elements. As the Australian pound, which had long held sway as the primary currency, gracefully bowed out of the spotlight, it made way for the emergence of the Australian dollar. This new currency, bearing the familiar name of dollars, was ingeniously divided into 100 cents, echoing the global currency trends that were taking shape. With the adoption of the decimal system, it was inevitable that a new arsenal of coins would take center stage. This impressive ensemble included the 1 cent, 2 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 20 cent, and 50 cent coins, each of them a piece of numismatic innovation. However, it's worth noting that the sands of time continued to flow. The 1 and 2 cent coin gracefully bowed out of the scenes, finding themselves relegated to the annals of coin history. New banknotes were also issued in varying denominations to cater to the diverse needs of the Australian populace. The modest $1 and $2 notes were soon joined by their more illustrious counterparts, the $5, $10, and $20 notes, and in subsequent years, the coveted $50 and $100 notes also made their splendid entrance. During this pivotal juncture, both the old pound shilling pence system and the new decimal system coexisted, akin to the old friend bidding farewell to a new one making a grand entrance. This effort was aimed at empowering citizens with the knowledge required to navigate this brave new financial world. The aim was not only to ensure a seamless transition, but also to foster a sense of comfort and familiarity with the novel currency. To quell any concerns about financial upheaval, existing savings and bank accounts underwent a meticulous transformation, evolving from pounds to dollars. Remarkably, the value essentially remained the same, thus maintaining the economic equilibrium. Australian coin decimalisation was more than just an alteration. It was a profound leap forward in Australia's financial and economic evolution. It bestowed upon the nation the gift of simplicity in everyday transactions, endowing customers and businesses alike with a newfound ease in calculations. Today, the Australian dollar stands tall as one of the globe's prominent currencies, wielding its influence with grace and authority in international trade and finance. The Australian 5-cent coin, which was introduced on February 14, 1966, replaced the pre-decimal 6 pence and has been the lowest denomination coin since the withdrawal of the 1 cent and 2 cent coins in 1992. Due to inflation, its purchasing power has steadily declined and as of 2018 represents only 0.27% of the minimum hourly wage for workers aged 21 and over. Typical of most Australian coins, the reverse side features a design of an iconic Australian animal, while the obverse side displays Queen Elizabeth II. A commemorative 2016 coin marked the 50th anniversary of decimal currency. Despite its high mintage, the Australian 5-cent coin doesn't actually circulate well due to its low value, similar to the Euro 1 cent coin. The lowest production run was 8.25 million in the year 1972, while the highest was 306.5 million in the year 2006. No coins were actually issued for circulation in the years 1985 and 1986, they were only minted for special edition proof and specimen sets. There have been many debates about removing this coin from circulation due to its low value and high production costs. In May 2007, its bullion value was around 6.5 cents, though there were no reports of hoarding or melting despite the potential 30% profit. Market prices as of June 2018 were about $7 per kilogram for copper and about $15 per kilogram for nickel, making the metal content worth 2.5 cents or 50% of its face value. The production cost in making these coins is reported to be 12 cents. In Australia, these 5-cent coins are legal tender for amounts owed up to $5 in debt payments. So now that we have given you guys some basic information on the Australian 5-cent coin, what do you say we get into the coin that you guys are all here for, and that is the 2007 double head. Now, the Australian 5-cent coin with the double head heir was minted in the year 2007. It's super important to note that this error is specific to the 2007 dated 5-cent coins. Now, what makes this coin so special is instead of the regular design with Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse and the Enchedna on the reverse, this coin actually has the Queen's portrait on both sides of the coin. This is an extremely rare occurrence and the result of a minting error. The exact number of these coins in circulation is not precisely known, but due to their rarity, they are highly sought after by collectors. It's estimated that only a very limited number of these coins were actually produced, making them a highly valuable find. Collectors of error coins find this particular coin highly desirable due to its uniqueness. Error coins often command high prices in the numismatic market, especially when they involve a significant deviation from the standard design. Now, before we get into the value, let's go over some of the specifications. The 2007 error you are looking for will come in a rotated, incorrect alignment, usually resembling coin alignment, but there may be deviations in the orientation of the obverse and reverse, but the most important thing is that this piece has the obverse die design on both faces of the coin. Now, some of the specifications. It was minted at the Canberra Mint. It is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It has a weight of 2.83 grams, a diameter of 19.4 millimeters. The obverse was designed and engraved by Ian Rank Broadley, and the reverse was designed and engraved by Stuart Devlin, and the edge of the coin is milled. Now, in the past, I have discussed a few of the Australian, British, American, and Canadian coins that you can find that can be worth some buku crazy amounts of money, but usually the sad fact and reality of coin collecting is it's the older pieces and the specimen pieces and the holy grails that are worth a lot of money. But this one is actually a modern coin. It is from the year 2007, so there is a decent chance if you are from Australia that you could find one of these if you are a coin roll hunter or coin collector. Now, in terms of value, this is definitely one of the most valuable modern Australian coins that I have covered on my channel. It can be worth around $3,300 for an MS60 example. It can be worth $5,600 for an MS63 example, which as far as I can tell is the highest graded known example. But if you were to find one of these and it's scored around an MS65, you could easily be talking a $10,000 coin. And another super important thing to note is that it's much more common for Australian, British, and American coins to score from MS67 to MS70. Canadian coins rarely surpass the MS67 mark. I'm not quite sure why. If any of you guys have any information or theories on that, I would love to know down in the comments. But for whatever that reason is, Australian coins seem to have a higher chance of getting those higher grade tiers, which can also add to the premium of this coin. So if you found one of these and it scored in an MS68, MS69, then you could be talking a $20,000, $30,000 error coin right here. The Australian crown was a coin used in Australia before decimalisation in the year 1966. It was only made in 1937 and 1938 and was the same size and weight as the British crown. The coin was made of sterling silver and was worth 5 shillings, just like the British crown. Originally, the coin was meant to celebrate King Edward VIII's reign, but it was made to celebrate King George VI's reign after Edward abdicated. However, this coin was not popular and production was stopped. In total, only 1,008,000 Australian crowns were made in the year 1937 and 101,600 were made in the year 1938, making the 1938 crown more valuable today. A 1937 crown in very fine condition is worth about $35, while a 1938 crown in very fine condition is worth about $135. Australia made a significant change to its coinage after King George V's death in 1936. They decided to introduce new designs for the reverse of all circulating coins except for the sixpence coin. Originally, the new coins were supposed to coincide with the crowning of King Edward VIII, but Edward's portrait had been appearing on the watermark of Australian notes since the legal tender issues of 1933, while he was still the Prince of Wales. Several countries released issues of King Edward VIII in 1936, but Australia had planned to release the all-new coins in 1937. Reverse patterns dated 1937 were prepared, but work on the obverse ended abruptly on December 11, 1936, when the king abdicated. No official coins bearing the portrait of King Edward VIII were issued in Australia, although an unofficial crown-size coin was produced especially for collectors. The Australian version of this coin shows Edward VIII on the obverse and a squatting kangaroo on the reverse. The portrait of this unofficial coin shows something of the character of Edward VIII in getting his own way. The king is facing left, breaking from the tradition of each monarch facing a different way. Apparently, Edward felt designs of him facing right were not flattering. This objection was the most probable cause for delays for a number of countries that did not issue coins of his reign. Thomas Humphrey Paget was quickly commissioned to produce the obverse design of Edward's younger brother, who is destined to become King George VI. A number of pattern coins were produced in the year 1937, and a few complete coins showing the new likeness of King George VI. These coins are extremely rare and fetch high prices at auction. The unofficial pattern Edward VIII 1936 crown was produced in two metals, nickel silver and gilded gold and bronze. During 1965, unofficial crown-size patterns of Edward VIII were offered for sale in the United Kingdom and the United States. The obverse of these patterns bore the effigy of Edward VIII. The motifs were as followed. Australia's was a kangaroo, the United Kingdom's was St. George and a dragon, Ceylon was an elephant, and Bermuda a sailing ship. All these patterns were dated 1936 and had a plain edge. These would appear to be restrikes of the patterns issued soon after the ascension of Edward VIII. Originally, they were struck in very limited numbers, but owing to the popularity of crown-sized pieces in Australia, it appears that they were restruck in larger numbers. In the year 1996, the Tower Mint in London released a further two unofficial Edward VIII crowns dated 1936. The coins, one struck in copper nickel and the other in gilding, each have a privy mark dated below on the bust of the obverse, which reads 20.1.36-11.12.36, representing the short period of the monarch's reign before abdicating. Now, what do you say we get into the values for this legendary Australian crown coin? Now, it is not the most valuable of the Australian coins. There are some pennies and half pennies in Australia that can be worth buku insane amounts of money. I've actually made some videos on Australian coins in the past. If you guys would like to find out the values on your Australian, British, Canadian, American coins, then go check out some of my top 10, top 5, top 25 lists. I have just about all of the rarest coins included on those, but there are just so many of these holy grail coins that fly under the radar, and I feel like some of them should get some extra attention, just like this pattern coin from 1936, 1937. So in terms of value, some of the recent sales for the 1936 Australian pattern coin, one sold on January 14th, 2021, for $156. This was in the silver composition, which is the more common of all of the different compositions. It was graded PR64, which is a proof grade, and it also had a cameo designation. So that is pretty interesting. That is not a whole lot of money, and the coin does have a proof 64 designation, which for British coins is not the highest grade, but it is still pretty reasonable by Canadian standards, and it also has that cameo designation as well, which would make it slightly more visually appealing to collectors. Now, this one is in the silver composition, and it sold for $156. Another one of the silver examples sold in 2015 on August 13th for $515. This was graded by NGC Proof 68. One of the bronze gilded examples sold on January 13th, 2015 for PCGS Proof 66 example, and this one had a deep cameo. So the bronze gilded are not super valuable as well. That is a pretty high grade, and considering it has the deep cameo attribution, I guess it is not nearly as valuable as the last two that we are going to cover, which are the gold examples. Now, the gold are the rarest, of course, and they can be worth some good, crazy buku money. One of the gold examples of the 1936 Australian crown pattern sold for $3,257 on January 13th in 2015, and that was graded PCGS PR64, and that was with a deep cameo attribution as well. So that is not the highest grade in terms of numismatics, but it does have the deep cameo attribution, which adds a lot of visual appeal to the coin. Now, the highest sold example for the gold 1936 Australian crown sold for $4,353 on January 5th, 2014, and that was graded PCGS Proof 64, also with a deep cameo. So it would seem like a lot of these 1936 crowns had the cameo attribution. Also, keep in mind that the auction prices I am giving you are in US dollars. So your chance of ever coming across one of the gold proofs is pretty much slim to nil, but you never know if you get a collection handed down to you. But you can always keep your eyes out for the silver and bronze gilded examples. They are not super valuable, but you can definitely turn a decent profit on them. They're worth a couple $100 each. So the 1936 Australian pattern crown has an incredibly cool history and definitely some value to go along with it. I would really like to thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please smash that thumbs up. Also, subscribe if you're new and hit that bell notification so you can follow along with my new videos as they are being released. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, but until the next one, everybody, peace out and have a good one, y'all.